Fear of rejection is rarely about the present moment. It's about past experiences. In fact, it's generally about past emotional or sometimes deeply emotional experiences. That's why a lot of times they are created in our childhood where maybe we didn't have the logic or intellectual ability to look at a situation and sort of tear it apart. We absorbed it at a deeper, more emotional level. A lot of times it's also a kind of gestalt reaction when we react to uh, rejection of some sort, in that it's not just the one thing that happened in our past, but all those times seemingly that it's happened over and over and over. So sometimes it becomes much bigger than the situation you're actually in that moment would warrant. And you've noticed this in other people where it's like, how come he reacted that way? Or how come she reacted that way? It wasn't about this moment. It wasn't about this reaction. It was about all the other times as well. And they just snowball effect to make this one of 1,000. And that applies to you as well. So think of it this way. And I've used this before, but think of the conscious and unconscious mind like an iceberg. The top above the water is the conscious mind, and that's maybe 8, maybe 5% of your mind. That's the logical, rational reasoning part. And everything below that surface, that's the unconscious mind. When we're younger, usually before 7, but it still continues after that, we develop responses. So sometimes they use the example of if you touch a burner and it hurts, you don't touch it again. So you learn certain things. But maybe when you were younger, you liked a girl and you showed her that in some way and you got a response that you didn't like. And maybe it was a response that you read into to some degree, or maybe you didn't, but I bet even if she clearly gave you a negative reaction, you still read into it. But what happens is in your unconscious mind, again, that iceberg, visualizing that below the surface, think of it as a little negative. So now, unconsciously, which also, again, our unconscious mind is also our body, in your body, you're equating approaching a girl or eventually a woman that you're attracted to as being negative. And so you start having these unconscious feelings, unconscious bodily reactions of one form or another that say, stop, don't do this, it's unsafe. I might get embarrassed. I might feel like I'm going to die because it feels that threatening. And then maybe you have other little experiences that maybe aren't just when you're a child, but maybe in your teens or when you're a little bit older. And they all add to it, kind of like that gestalt. And they reinforce this idea that rejection is something to be feared, right? So what we call these things in the unconscious mind, these experiences, and by the way, they can also happen vicariously. Maybe you see someone getting rejected, or you watch movies where the character gets rejected, and a lot of times it's even more dramatized then because it's a movie, and you take that in. See, it's scary, and you build these what I call knowns in your unconscious mind. These are what you, quote, know to be true about life, and especially about you and your life. And the secret here is what's known is like pleasure, right? We fear the unknown. So even if you don't like it, because it's familiar, right? It's the devil you know. It's the thing you know, that there's a safety in that. So we gravitate toward pleasure, which are knowns, even if it's getting you a result you don't want. And we shy away from the unknowns, meaning everything outside of your unconscious mind. Uh, Things like a great result when you approach women, confidence when you approach women, courage, success, a sense of just having fun, a sense of it not really mattering at all anyway. And all the other possible positive reactions you could have are unknowns because they're not known to you. They're outside of your unconscious programming. That's what we're working on in the sessions, is we're trying to get that retuned, because It's reading a fact here, but about 60% of singles report anxiety about rejection when dating. So it's not just for men, it happens for women too, because hey, we're all human beings. But it's all about rewiring those unconscious beliefs, experiences, as I just called them, knowns, because when you rewire and then you take action, you get confidence. Again, as I said this before, but courage isn't acting when you aren't afraid. Courage is acting even despite the fact that you are afraid. That's how you become courageous. That's how you become confident, is you take action. You reinterpret these past experiences, you develop emotional resistance, take action, and a lot of times that's during doing some sort of unconscious work. Because fear of rejection isn't about the now, it's about the unconscious patterns that, as we're just talking about now, can be changed.